Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hey there, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Hey, guys, we're going to dig into a topic that is, maybe at first blush, it doesn't seem immediately actionable, maybe a little bit more philosophical, but our goal for it actually is to make it as actionable as possible, since it is action that gets results, not thinking about stuff or worrying about stuff. And it is the day that we're recording is almost the very end of 2024. So it's a very much a topic on our minds, but it's also a topic that should be on everyone's minds throughout
Every
the
time.
year. I know this is the beginning of April when you're listening, so the beginning of a new quarter. There's that. Look for fresh starts whenever you can take them. But the topic that we wanted to talk about is the concept of if not now, when? As in, well, now's not the right time. I'm too busy right now. Or, I'm gonna wait until I feel more confident. Oh, I'm gonna wait until things look better in the economy. Oh, I'm gonna wait until whatever. Name your I don't want to come out of the gates and say excuse, but name your reason. And we kind of want to dig
Some of the reasons
into
feel
that
really
today.
good. That's a good point because
Yes.
we can make ourselves, we're very good at making stories up in our minds and saying, here's why. And it can feel like a really valid reason.
Yeah, because it's not that they aren't valid,
Yeah,
but they also maybe aren't as solid as they seem like they are. Well, I can't do this because, we will hear this sometimes from people who are interested in, for example, getting into copywriting. They say, "Oh my gosh, I would love to do your program, but I can't right now. I just don't have the time." The kids just started school and now there's soccer and then there's this and there's that. And the thing is I am not at all saying, we are not at all saying that that it's not valid to say, "Oh, you have time constraints." Absolutely. And again, this is not just about starting the copywriting program. But any changes in our lives, right? But the thing is that there are always going to be time constraints. I think we're all it's a human bias to believe that at some point in the future things are going to be easier, or at some point in the future our time is going to open up miraculously, when it just doesn't. The older we get, the busier our lives get, the more obligations there are on us. That time fills up. If you have an open spot on your schedule or an open, you never get to the end of your to-do list. It always gets filled in. It's your to-do list is a vacuum. As soon as you cross something off the list, something else goes to the bottom of it. So the idea of, well, I have to wait for the perfect time, or I have to wait for a time when I'm less busy, that's not something that's actually going to happen. Exactly. And I completely get it, because maybe you guys have heard me mention this before. I took a behavioral economics class, and that is a very common human bias. We believe it's a planning bias, and it is an optimism bias. We believe that eventually there's going to be a better time for this. We believe that eventually we're going to have more time, but that doesn't ever come.
Yeah, I think I relate to that in the sense that and I don't think I've talked about this on the podcast, but I've always considered doing at least the educational component of the certified financial planner certification. There's an education component to it. And there's both obviously a time commitment to doing that education component and a financial obligation to doing that that part of the certification. And I haven't done it yet, but it's that same thing of like, well, maybe when I take this break, I'll just take a break and do this chunk. And I know that's not true. I just have to sign up and do the course, because once I sign up and my money's on the line, I am going to make it work. I know for me, that's what motivates me. And it's not like, can I afford the course right now? Absolutely. And could that course eventually lead to more opportunities that pay for itself back again? Absolutely. That investment in that education it's an investment. It's not a purchase. Meanwhile, I'm looking right now at a sweater. I should show it to you later, Nikki, that I do not need, that is highly overpriced. made the mistake of trying it on the store. And am I considering making that sweater purchase? Yes, 100% more than I am investing in education that would, even if I don't do anything with it, and I know this, I know it would help me. It would make
Mhm.
me a better with my own personal finances. It would just up-level my skills in so many ways. It would help potentially my copywriting clients that are in the financial space that have additional knowledge that it would bring to the table for that. I know that there's no downside to it. I just have to do it. And I know that's we'll have some other tips and whatnot of just do it. Obviously that there's more to it than that. But for me, I know it's like joining a gym. What's going to make me go to that gym? And to some extent, I've thought about, and I haven't done it, joining a fancier gym because I know if I put more
Mhm.
money on the line, you better believe I'm going to make the most of that investment in that
Mhm.
gym versus the Planet Fitness that I've been, a part of for years. It's so easy to say, well, it's like
20
$12 a
bucks.
month.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well.
Mhm. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and,
Mhm.
the thing is too is that for me, when I have not done things, I think it's because it's gonna take so much time. Oh my gosh, it's gonna take so much time. Well, yeah, I wanna do that, but boy, that's gonna take it's gonna take large chunks of time,
Mhm.
and that may or may not be the case. If you're gonna take a class, take a course now, yes, of course, if you're taking a live course, you're gonna have to dedicate when I was taking
Whatever
that
time.
behavioral economics course, it's been a while since I've been in college, friend. So when they're like, "Okay, here's what assignments are due on Thursdays," and I'm like, "Wait, every Thursday? What? Then did you reading every week?" Like, oh my lord. Anyway, so I had to kind of buckle down, but yes, there may be that element of having to keep up with the schedule if you're doing something that's live. Um, but also then you fit that in around the things that are already in your life. Or if you have a program that is self-paced, then it doesn't have to be big chunks of time. We're always saying to our students, you can make progress in like 15-minute chunks a day. It doesn't have to be, well, I have to spend 2 hours every single day if I'm gonna make this worth it. That's not what it has to be about at all. You can take the pieces that you need to make progress on and fit them in where you can. Hey there, it's Nikki. I wanted to take a very quick minute to make sure that you knew about our free on-demand copywriting training. Now, whether you are brand new to copywriting or you've been doing it for a while, but you just can't seem to hit those income goals, this training is for you. You are going to learn the 3 secrets to landing freelance copywriting work without relying on frustrating job bidding sites like Upwork or Fiverr, or without cold calling strangers. And if you've watched any of the student success stories on this channel, and if you haven't yet, check them out. This is the exact same training that they all started with. And I mean students like Kate K, who is making 6 figures working part-time and retired her husband to help her build her business. Students like Stuart, who replaced his full-time salary, which was a good one, with his freelance income and then some. Stacy, who hit 6 figures in her first 6 months as a freelance copywriter, and Ashley, who landed the in-house copywriting job of her dreams. They all started with this free training, and you can start with this free training too. So sign up right now at freecopywritingtraining.com.
And you know what takes the most time is thinking and dwelling on things and not do, at least for me. You know how much time I've spent thinking about taking this like so much time. What a
Fascinating.
waste of my time. Yes. And
If
there's certain I do that with running too. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go for a run today. And I look at the time and I'm like, you just spent half an hour dragging your feet about the thing that you know you're gonna do. And now you don't have that time back.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to notice that more and get better about that. Like, just let's do it. Let's stop thinking about it because the thinking doesn't get me.
If you had to guess at how long you've
Oh
spent thinking about
God.
this financial planning course, like, just out of
Oh my
curiosity.
gosh. I've been
Not
on
at
an
all to
email
shame you, of
list.
course.
No,
Yeah.
of course not. I did research. I found the there's certain educational institutions that offer
Mhm.
the program both in person and online.
Mhm.
So I found the online program. It's actually at BU. Yeah. Been on an email list for probably, I don't know, the better part of 3 years at least. At least. Do I read some of those emails and add that to the time that I'm yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do. And they pop up, So who knows?
So at
Hours,
least
days,
many
at least
hours. Yeah.
days
Yeah.
probably at this point. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
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 Isn't that
It's like, you know how
interesting?
people like calculate the time you stop at a red light or whatever and how much time you'll be at a red light in your life? I feel
Mhm.
like this is like red lights we're creating for ourselves.
Yes. Well, that's so interesting because in the amount of time that you've spent thinking
I
about
could have
it,
completed the course
you could
probably.
have completed the course, right? And but we all do that, right? In the amount of time you
Oh,
spend thinking
100%.
like, "Oh, I really want to do this program, but I'm not sure I have time to do this program." But you have
I
time
know I
to
don't have the
think
time. Could
about
I make
how
the
you
time
don't.
though?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
100%. What would go
Mhm.
away? Okay, some TV watching for sure. Maybe I'd read a few less books throughout the, but I'd be reading other stuff for the program, I'm sure.
Mhm.
My time spent scrolling social media, could that go down? Absolutely. Like, there's so much time in my day that I know I have that I'm just filling with things that aren't valuable, that aren't progressing me toward what I really want out of, for my
Mhm.
goals. Oh, and we all do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Well, and and there's so much not downtime, but interim time, right? Like, and not that
mhm,
we should all be constantly overscheduling ourselves and but if you're driving somewhere, driving to work,
yeah.
or you're driving the kids somewhere, or whatever, and you're listening to like morning talk radio, which is so terrible. Could you be listening to the course that you're working on? And maybe you
Or
listen to it once in the car, and then
yep.
you listen to it again, then it goes a little bit faster than what time when you
Mhm,
listen to it again, because then you have some of the concepts down. It actually cements it even more. But
mhm.
there are opportunities to fit things in. And I know that it sounds very privileged when I don't have kids, I live alone. It seems like it's like, yeah, believe me, I don't. It sounds like I have
You have
nothing
all
but
the
time.
time in
That
the
is
world,
not the
Nikki.
case.
Yeah.
I realize that does sound a little bit privileged to say, just fit it in, make the time. But I think that when all of us actually look at our schedules and see, okay, well, actually, here's a little example of my dear friends, and I say this with so much love, and I don't say this because I want you to stop doing this, but right now you are listening to a podcast. And again, I do not want you to stop doing this. I'm not saying stop listening to podcasts, but especially not this one. But you found some time within your day to listen to this podcast, which means that you could probably also find some time within your day to listen to a course or consume a course or something
Practice a
along those lines.
language or whatever you're
Practice a
doing.
language. There are opportunities within your day. I think the thing I think about, again, I don't have kids, but most of my friends have kids. And the thing that almost all of them have told me is that when they have kids, they're like, "Oh, no," you kind of think of what you kind of think you understand how it's going to take over your life, but I don't think anybody ever really does. But you just make it work. Like, does anybody really have time to have
Sure,
kids?
yeah.
Is there ever really a perfect time to have kids? There isn't. You just, if you want kids, if you're able to, if you want kids and you're able to, you have kids and you fit it in and you make it work
And you figure
because
it out too,
you
right? Like,
figure
I
it
mean,
out.
every kid's different. It's not like even if I have a nephew now, but it's not like you can practice. There's no like trial run for that. One day you don't have a
Yes.
child, and then the next,
Next day
oh,
you
you
do, which is
do. Wild.
wild. Absolutely. What's smoking is two women who don't have children. What?
Wild.
Wild. But yes, but you fit it in because it's a priority. Because
Yes, yeah, true.
especially with a child, like, oh well, exactly. You can't take it back. You can't be like, actually, I think I'd like to spend a little bit less time with this child. This infant seems to be requiring a lot of my attention, and I'd like to give 50% less. Not an option. You do it because it's a priority, and I think part of this comes to really getting honest with ourselves about what our priorities are, what
Mhm.
we're making priorities and what we're saying, "Oh, yeah, I'll get to that someday." And sometimes part of that, "I'll get to that someday," is because we recognize that it's going to take us outside of our comfort zones and it's gonna make us grow, like, oh, taking a new course, taking a new program, maybe learning a new career is that is something new, and that's gonna make me kind of go, "All right, where do I want my life to go? How is that gonna all shake out?" Um, but we can't let fears get in the way of taking a new step. Like, we can't let being afraid of being uncomfortable or having to think bigger thoughts about our lives keep us from doing the things that are going to make our lives worthwhile.
Well, think about all the positives too. We always spiral to the negatives. And I think about this with the CFP course that I want to take. And I'm like, there's nothing but positive, like I said, that could come out of that. I have no fear that that would end up poorly. I don't have to commit to fully becoming a CFP. There are other steps to take to go down that route. I don't have to commit to that. I just have to commit to being open to learning and seeing who knows what opportunities might come out of that or and maybe I decide, nope, this isn't for me. But again, worst case, I had this new batch of knowledge from this program. And the other thing I want to, that relates to this, I think is, and maybe men feel it too, but I certainly feel like as women that we are doing something for ourselves can feel selfish, or that we are, it feels like we're taking time away from serving other people in our life that we feel we need to serve or want to or whatever. I'm thinking specifically for parents out there. Obviously, you need to take care of your children. But often I feel like it's the expense of ourselves. And before we started recording this, we were talking about, putting on your oxygen mask before helping others. And that concept, I think we recognize it. We can't help others as much if we don't help ourselves, but I think it's very hard to implement and super if we do it at all. But I think this falls into that there's, wow, what an opportunity to put my priorities, my goals, my dreams front and center. And there's something that feels maybe guilty we have of doing that, like we're not supposed to, or we feel bad, or we feel like it's going to take time away from other things and other people. When it's okay to have big goals and dreams and go after them and want them. And I think, the people in our life that love us and support us will continue to do that, especially for something that we are chasing down. And I think sometimes it can be very difficult when we go after something we really want and the people in our lives are threatened by that or don't support that or are confused by it or feel like, oh, wait, they're taking their time away from me now. But that's okay that we are doing something for ourselves, especially when it's something positive that's going to help our lives and going to help the lives of others around us, especially when it comes to, taking a course, even learning a language, learning a new craft. If you're learning to sew, like there's things that you can do that serve the people around you and yourself with these skills. So there's nothing wrong with it. And I think there is something for us that sometimes maybe holds us back because we feel bad doing it or pursuing it.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny how often we're happy to be the ones providing help and happy to be the ones supporting, but are uncomfortable either asking for help or making something that we want a priority. And we should be just as comfortable making things. We're not talking about spending all your time doing the things that you want. Although, as I say that out loud, what's so terrible about that? Genuinely, what's so terrible about doing the things that you want a lot of the time? But being willing to say, hey, this matters to me. I'm having a little trouble fitting this into my schedule. Can I get some help with that? Because that's how relationships are supposed to work, right? We're supposed to be able to lean on each other. And I say this as someone who has a very hard time asking for help. It's supposed to be something that we're able to do, especially if we're providing help and support. We should be able to ask for help and support in those same ways, because it's doing things for ourselves is not a selfish thing, because it like you said, Kate, it improves us, it improves our community, and the longer term goal as well may be absolutely life changing. I mean, the number, and again, this is not just about the copywriting course, but it's always so humbling and so gratifying, and sometimes, boy, do I need to hear it. The number of students that we talk to say, oh my gosh, this program changed my life. This program changed my life. But it only changed their lives because they were willing to start it and do it, in spite of going, well, none of our students have ever said, well, I had absolutely nothing else going on, so I thought, why not just start a course? Sometimes it will be they lost a job, and so, but that doesn't mean they didn't have anything else going on. If anything, they had a whole bunch of other looking for work, but it's nobody has ever said like, oh yeah, I had nothing going on, nothing but free time, so I thought, start a course. It's almost always people who are working a full-time job, also parenting and fitting this in nonetheless, so that on the other side of that, they end up with more time. The number of students who are like, "Yeah, I was working full time. I never get to see my child. I managed to I did the course and I took the advice and I got outside my comfort zone. I took the action, and now I get to spend so much more time with my children, and I get to manage my hours, and I get to and I make more money than I ever did before." It's the sometimes we have to do the short-term trade-offs for the long-term benefit.
Yeah, and I can speak to this as well as anyone. I'm like, what if I had started that program 3 years ago? Who knows where I'd be right now? But especially when you do eventually start something and you think, wow, if I had only started this sooner. And granted, we all come to our decisions when we do, and there's no sense of beating ourselves up for not doing something sooner. But the best time to start is now for
Mhm,
anything that you want to do.
mhm.
And can we kick ourselves and say, "Oh, I should have done it a month ago, 5 months ago, so now I'm not gonna do it?" That it doesn't logically make any sense but I think it's easy to go into that, and I was like, "Well, I should have done it 3 years ago, and so now I didn't do it, so now there's what's the point?" The point is that you could still
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
You can still
The
do whatever the thing is.
Exactly. There's the proverb that says, like, what the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The
Right.
next best time, today, because you will still see it in the future, right? The some of the well, I don't know, it's gonna take me so long to get through the program because I have to move so slowly. It's gonna take me like a year to get through the program because I don't have much time. Okay, but then in a year, you will have completed the program.
You're a year
Otherwise, a
ahead of
year
where
will
you were.
pass. Exactly. A year will pass and you won't have completed the program. Either way, a year is going to pass. So it's your choice as to whether that year is going to pass without you having done anything to move forward or having done something to move forward in your life, and I don't want to sound, it's because it sounds a little trite. It sounds a little cliched to say that life is so short and it changes so quickly. And I'm not saying, you need to do this because you're going to die tomorrow. Um, but you don't know how your life is going to change. You can't
Mhm.
tell how your life is going to change. You can't tell if you're thinking, I'm so busy right now. You can't tell if things are going to happen in the future that are going to make it even busier. And you're going to think, gosh, why didn't I do it back then? I thought I was so busy. In retrospect, I had so much more time back then than I have time now. Or, the uh,
I
caring
don't
for loved ones and just all the stuff that can come up. You can't predict it.
I don't know why this reminds me, but it does of, in thinking of, we beat ourselves up, especially, again, men, maybe you can relate. Women, especially, I know can relate to looking back at photos in their, teens or 20s and being like, "Oh, I thought I was so ugly, fat, name the adjective." And then you're like,
Mhm,
"Wow, look at, that's awesome."
mhm.
And I feel like we keep doing that. And so, like, versus like just enjoying the moment we're in and who we are and what we look like and all of those sorts of things, because we know, 5, 10 years from now, we're gonna look back at photos from now and be like, wow, like,
Why didn't I appreciate it then? Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That's
yeah,
that's what that reminds me of. That
yeah, yeah. No, it's true. It's like a universal experience. God, look at me 10 years ago. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So, I
I look
mean,
at my
really,
skin 10 years ago. Oh my goodness.
I know. I mean, it still looks great but now, by
Thank
the
you.
way.
Zoom
I'm
filters. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm
It's
flash forwarding to 10 years from now and telling you how great you look
for
now.
sure. Thank you.
I mean, you look great then too. I don't know where
Yeah.
that's going. Anyway, but I guess what it comes down to is part of the reason Kate and I want to talk about this is because we have this conversation with so many students, but it's also conversations we have with each other and conversations we have with ourselves, and something that I am regularly trying to remind myself of when I'm like, well, I don't know, should I start this? No, is if not now, when? Because we always think we have an answer to the when, and maybe that's the problem. So we always
Yeah.
think
We
we have
always
an answer to the
confused.
if not now, when? Oh, well, then next year. Next year's going to be easier.
Mhm.
Next year it's better. Next year my finances are going to be a little bit better. I'll be able to afford it a little bit better. Next year it'll be, or the year after that, or in a couple of months, or but things are it's things are never as perfect as we expect it to be and I'm going to be able to afford it next year so much better. Other stuff's going to come up. Other stuff's going to come up.
Mhm.
And then if it's not a priority then, and more stuff might come up, and you might think back and wish, oh, I wish I'd done that program that would actually let me pay for this stuff a little bit better, because I could really use that extra cash right now. And again, I know it sounds like I'm making it all about copywriting, but it's not just all
It's
about
literally
copywriting.
anything.
It's always so much easier to say, in the future, it's going to be easy. The vast majority of the time, it's not going to be. It's going to be harder, because the more we live, and the more that we age, and the more that things just get more complicated. It has to be your choice, and it has to be your decision to say, no, I'm going to do this now. We talk a lot about like future us and present us doing things to set future us up for
Mhm.
success. So when future us becomes present us, we can be like, oh, good job, past Nikki. Good job, past Kate. Thanks for setting me up. Uh,
Mhm.
you have to prioritize, yes, not just you now, but also making sure that you're setting future you up for success through the choices that you're making today.
Yeah, I think about that every time I contribute to my 401k. I'm like, oh, I would
Yes.
love to spend this money, but I know future me is going to be so happy when I can actually retire.
Mm-hmm.
Knock on wood. But yeah,
Well,
and I
yeah.
I know you also said, life is short. I think the other thing too, it's short for sure, but it's also long enough that it doesn't make
Mm.
sense to just stay stuck in, it's like, well, I'll just do this for the next 10, 20, 30 years or however. That's a long time when you
Right.
really sit and think about, like, that's a long time.
Exactly. And the thing is, I think there's a very solid chance that because you're listening to this podcast or you're watching this video, you are the kind of person who doesn't tend to think like that, right? You
Mhm.
tend to think like, well, yeah, I want to make the most of my life. I'm not satisfied just doing what working for the weekend. But here's the thing. Most people are. And you may be surrounded in your life by people who are. And without you even realizing it, that may be normalizing it for you. Even like I'm just thinking, because we just came back. My family celebrates Christmas. Kate, yours does as well. And we just like we ate and we drank, and that's fine. That's what Christmas is.
Mhm.
But it's also I wouldn't eat like and drink like that in any other time, and I wouldn't even during Christmas, I would think I wouldn't normally. But if someone else is like, "Hey, let's open up another bottle of the boozy nog," it's like, "Yeah, okay, well, they're doing it, I'm gonna have some too." And it's and again, this is just kind of a silly example, but it's when all the people around you are doing something or thinking in a certain way, you can have the best intentions, but it becomes normal for you. And I'm not saying you need to ditch your friends or anything along those lines, but you may also need to get in circles with people who aren't thinking, yeah, my job sucks, but whatever, I'll keep doing it until I can, I don't know, retire, or I'll keep doing, my job sucks, but after 2 years, I'm going to get a good bonus, and then I'll start looking for another job. Or uh, you, assuming you are not the kind of person who thinks that way, you need to make sure that you are, if not surrounding yourself with people who think a little bit more strategically about their lives and what they really want to go for, then at least be consuming things that help you think more strategic, reading books, listening to podcasts, watching videos that help you break out of the vast majority of people think in terms of like, well, I'll just get through to the weekend. Man, I like it. And it's such a massive amount of time. It's such a massive amount of time to spend thinking, "Well, I don't like this, but meh." It's so fundamentally easy to make a change. The hardest thing is to decide to do it, and then the second hardest thing is to take the first step. Okay, so our question for you is, if not now, when? But also the second part that we would recommend that you do a little thinking on is, what is your answer to that when? And is that really valid? Or is that just letting you make excuses to kind of kick it down the road? And by the time you get to that, you're going to go, oh, I guess I don't have time now. And you're going to regret not taking the action just right now. This is, like we said, when we're recording it, it's the end of 2024. When you guys are listening to this, at the very earliest, it's going to be the beginning of April. Maybe you're listening to it afterward. But there's never a bad time to sit down and think about your life and think about, okay, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? And how do I start making that happen? You don't need to know all of the steps. You don't need to have it all planned out. But what are the first steps? What is the direction that I want to head? And what are the one or two steps I can do to head in that direction? And then we would strongly encourage you, take those steps now. Just get started, because that is where the whole new life begins, with those first couple of steps. So with that, we will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.